Before Apple and Samsung, there was a company that was a part of our lives. That small blue logo sat in pockets across the world, connecting families, friends, and even entire countries. It was the ringtone you couldn't forget, the phone you could drop 100 times and still trust to work. You might have guessed it right, and yes, that's Nokia. But what most people don't know is that Nokia didn't begin with technology at all. Its story started with paper, rivers, and one man's dream in the cold forests of Finland. And from there, it built an empire that would one day rule the world, before losing it all. This is the story of how Nokia was made, how a paper mill became an empire, and how that empire taught the world one of the hardest lessons in business. What rises through innovation can fall through pride. It was the year 1865. Finland was not yet an independent country. It was cold, rural, and still under Russian rule. In the middle of all this, a mining engineer named Frederick Idestam opened a small paper mill near the Nokian Virta River. The mill did well, and the river's name, Nokia, later inspired the company's name. Soon after, another man joined the journey, Leo Mechelin, an economist and visionary. He dreamed bigger and encouraged Idestam to expand the business into something more industrial and ambitious. They did not know it at the time, but what they were building was not just a company, it was a reflection of Finland's character, a symbol of resilience and creativity. By the early 1900s, Nokia had started to diversify into new areas, such as rubber boots, tires, and electrical cables. Whatever Finland needed, Nokia built it. No one could have imagined that this small factory in the Finnish woods would one day help billions of people talk to each other across continents. Everything changed in 1967 when three companies merged together: a paper mill, a rubber factory, and a cable manufacturer. That merger became Nokia Corporation. From that point, Nokia was no longer just a manufacturer of materials. It became a company driven by the idea of connection. It began exploring radio signals, data transmission, and the growing field of telecommunications. During the 1970s, Nokia started to experiment with consumer technology. It built televisions, computers, and eventually car phones. In 1979, Nokia launched Mobira, its first venture into mobile communication. The phones were massive and heavy, often needing both hands to hold them. But they worked, and in Finland, where distances were long and isolation was common, that mattered deeply. People did not just see a gadget, they saw freedom, and Nokia was just beginning its journey. The 1990s brought a turning point with a new leader named Jorma Ollila, who would transform Nokia completely. At that time, Finland's economy was collapsing after the fall of the Soviet Union, which had been its major trading partner. Nokia was struggling to stay alive. Ollila made a bold decision that would change everything. He decided that Nokia would focus entirely on mobile phones. He sold off everything that was not related to telecommunications. This decision proved to be revolutionary. In 1994, Nokia launched the Nokia 2100, which introduced the famous Nokia tune. Soon came the 3310, the 1100, and the 6600. These phones were not just popular, they were cultural icons. They were simple, durable, and reliable. You could drop them, lose them, or forget them in the rain, and they would still work perfectly. Nokia's slogan said it all: connecting people, and that is exactly what it did. By the early 2000s, Nokia owned 40% of the global mobile market, which is more than any phone company holds today. It was a golden age. From a paper mill to the most trusted phone brand in the world, Nokia had achieved the impossible. But success often hides the first signs of trouble. Inside Nokia, engineers were warning that smartphones were the future, but leadership did not act quickly. They believed their position in the market was too strong to be challenged. Then in 2007, Steve Jobs walked on stage and revealed the iPhone, a single device with no physical buttons, just a smooth glass screen. Nokia's executives laughed at it. They thought it was impractical, fragile, and would never replace traditional phones. However, Apple was not selling a device. It was selling an experience, and that changed everything. While the world moved toward touchscreens and mobile applications, Nokia was still relying on its old software, Symbian, which had already begun to feel outdated. Developers found it complicated and slow, while Apple and Android offered simple, modern platforms that encouraged creativity. By the time Nokia tried to adapt, Android had already taken over the market. In 2011, Nokia partnered with Microsoft to launch Windows phones in an effort to make a comeback. The partnership looked promising, but it arrived too late. Consumers had already moved on. In 2013, Nokia made a heartbreaking decision to sell its entire phone division to Microsoft. For many Finns, it was more than a business move. It felt like losing a national treasure. Tens of thousands of employees lost their jobs, and an entire country watched the company that once made them proud fade away. Even Microsoft, with all its resources, could not revive Nokia's magic. Their version of Nokia phones never gained traction, and within a few years, the brand disappeared from stores. It was hard to believe that the company which had once defined mobile communication was now gone from it. But legends rarely disappear completely. Nokia continued to exist, not as a phone company, but as a technology backbone powering modern communication. It focused on network infrastructure and became a key player in building 5G technology around the world. Then, in 2016, a Finnish company named HMD Global brought the Nokia name back to life by acquiring the rights to produce phones under the brand. These new Nokia phones were not about dominating the market. They were about nostalgia and trust, a reminder of what the brand once stood for. And people remembered the ringtone, the design, the reliability. Because Nokia's story was never only about technology. It was about people, connection, and the belief that what you build can truly matter. Nokia's journey is a powerful reminder that innovation is not a one-time victory. It is something you must nurture continuously. The moment a company stops listening, stops learning, or believes it cannot fail, it begins to fall. From a small paper mill beside a Finnish river to the world's most trusted phone maker, Nokia's rise was extraordinary, and its fall was a warning. No matter how powerful a company becomes, the world never stops changing. This is the rise and the reason, where we do not just tell how things were built, we tell what they taught us. Like the video and hit the subscribe button.